I was standing on the side of a deserted road in Connecticut, watching my husband's black Mercedes disappear into the distance. No purse, no phone, no money, not even a jacket to protect me from the October chill that was settling in as the sun dropped below the tree line. Vincent had actually done it. After 32 years of marriage, he had left me on the side of the road like I was nothing, like I was garbage he needed to dispose of. My hands were shaking, and I wasn't sure if it was from the cold or from the shock of what had just happened. Probably both. I looked around, hoping to see a house, a gas station, anything. But there was nothing. Just trees, empty road, and the growing darkness. "You want independence?" Vincent had screamed at me just minutes before. "Here's your independence. Let's see how long you last without my money, without my name, without anything. You're nobody without me, Eleanor. You never were." Those words kept playing in my head as I stood there frozen, unable to process what was happening. I'm Eleanor Ashford. I'm 56 years old. I used to be a curator at the Museum of Modern Art before I gave it all up for this man. And now here I was, abandoned like a stray dog on a country road because I had dared to confront him about the text messages I found on his phone. The messages to a woman named Kristen. Messages where he called her baby and promised her that he would get rid of the old burden soon. I was the old burden. After everything I had sacrificed, everything I had given up, I was nothing but a burden to him. I started walking. I didn't know where I was going, but standing still felt like giving up, and I refused to give Vincent that satisfaction. My heels were completely wrong for this road, but I kept going, one painful step at a time. That's when I noticed the car. A silver Mercedes S-Class, parked about 50 yards ahead on the shoulder. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, but as I got closer, I could see movement inside. Someone was in the back seat. I should have been scared. A woman alone on a deserted road, approaching a strange car. But I was beyond fear at that point. I was beyond everything. All I knew was that there might be someone who could help me, someone who could let me use their phone to call. Who? I had no one. Vincent had made sure of that over the years. As I approached the car, the rear window rolled down slowly. Inside, I could see an elderly woman with perfectly white hair styled in an elegant French twist. She was wearing dark sunglasses despite the fading light, and her posture was impeccable. She looked like she belonged in a magazine spread about wealthy retirees, not parked on the side of a rural Connecticut road. "I can hear you crying, dear," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Your footsteps have been unsteady for the past minute. Are you in trouble?" I realized then that my cheeks were wet. I hadn't even noticed I was crying. I'm sorry to bother you," I managed to say, my voice cracking. "My husband, he left me here. I don't have my phone or my wallet. I just need to call someone, if you could." The woman tilted her head slightly, and I understood then why she was wearing sunglasses at dusk. The way she moved, the way she seemed to be listening rather than looking. She was blind. "Your husband left you here?" she repeated, and there was something in her tone that wasn't surprise. It was recognition, understanding. "On this road? In this cold? Without anything?" "Yes." The word came out as barely a whisper. "My name is Vivienne Delacroix," she said. "My driver is changing a flat tire just up the road. He'll be back in a few minutes." She paused, then reached out her hand toward the door handle. "Please, come sit with me. You're shivering so hard I can hear your teeth chattering." I hesitated for just a moment, but something about her voice, something about the gentle authority in it, made me trust her. I opened the door and slid into the back seat beside her. The warmth of the car's interior hit me immediately, and I had to fight back a fresh wave of tears at the simple relief of it. "There," Vivienne said, reaching over to pat my hand. Her touch was papery but warm. "That's better. Now tell me your name." "Eleanor. Eleanor Ashford." "Eleanor," she repeated, as if tasting the name. That's a beautiful name. Strong. Classic. She turned her face toward me, and even through the dark glasses, I felt like she was seeing me somehow. Your husband is a fool, Eleanor. I let out a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. He's been called worse. I imagine he has. Men like him usually are. Vivian's hand was still on mine, and she squeezed it gently. How long has he been treating you this way? The question caught me off guard. Not what happened or why did he leave you, but how long, as if she already knew there was a history, as if she understood that tonight wasn't an isolated incident, but the culmination of something much longer and much worse. 32 years, I whispered. We've been married for 32 years. And he's been controlling you for all of them, hasn't he? Slowly cutting you off from friends, from family, from your own sense of self. Making you dependent on him financially, emotionally, in every way possible. I stared at her, stunned. How do you know that? Vivian smiled, but it was a sad smile. Because I've seen it before, dear. More times than I care to count. Men like your husband follow a pattern. They choose women who are kind, who are trusting, who have good hearts. And then they spend years breaking those hearts piece by piece until there's nothing left. She paused. But they always make one mistake. What's that? They underestimate us. Her grip on my hand tightened. They think that because they've broken us down, we'll stay broken. They never expect us to fight back. I shook my head. I can't fight back. I don't have anything. He controls all the money, all the accounts. I don't even have a credit card in my own name. He took my purse tonight, my phone. I literally have nothing. You have yourself, Vivian said firmly, and that's more than he thinks you have. Before I could respond, there was a tap on the window. I jumped, my heart racing, but Vivian remained perfectly calm. That will be Edmund, she said, my driver. The front door opened, and a man in his 60s slid into the driver's seat. He had salt and pepper hair cut short, military style, and steel-gray eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. When those eyes landed on me, I saw a flicker of recognition that confused me. Tires fixed, Mrs. Delacroix, he said, his voice deep and measured. I see we have company. This is Eleanor, Edmund. Her husband abandoned her on this road. We'll be giving her a ride. Of course, ma'am. Edmund adjusted his rearview mirror, and his eyes met mine in the reflection. Mrs. Ashford, isn't it? I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. How do you know my name? Vivian and Edmund exchanged a look. Well, Vivian turned her face toward the front of the car, and Edmund nodded almost imperceptibly. It was a silent communication that spoke of years of working together. Eleanor, Vivian said slowly, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. I need you to trust me, at least for the next few minutes. Can you do that? I should have said no. I should have gotten out of the car and taken my chances on the road. But something in her voice held me there, something that felt like the first honest connection I'd had in decades. Yes, I heard myself say. Good. Vivian took a breath. Edmund and I didn't happen to be on this road by accident tonight. We've been watching your husband for several months now. My blood ran cold. Watching him? Why? Because Vincent Ashford stole $4.2 million from an investment fund that included several of my late husband's business associates. Because he's been laundering money through his firm for years. And because... She paused. I know what he's done to you, Eleanor. Not all of it, I'm sure. But enough to know that you deserve so much better than what you've been living with. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, trying to process what she was telling me. Vincent was a thief? A criminal? On some level, I suppose I had always known he wasn't entirely honest in his business dealings. But $4 million? Money laundering? I don't understand, I finally managed. "If you've been watching him, why didn't you go to the police?" "We needed more evidence," Edmund spoke up from the front seat. "Mr. Ashford is very careful, very good at covering his tracks, but we've been building a case." "And then tonight happened," Vivian continued. "Edmund saw the argument in the car, saw him force you out, saw him take your belongings and drive away." Her hand found mine again. "When he told me what he witnessed, I knew it was time." "Time for what?" Vivian smiled, and this time there was something sharp in it, something fierce. "Time to bring Vincent Ashford down, and I believe you can help us do it." I pulled my hand away from hers. "This is insane. I don't even know you. For all I know, this is some kind of trap. Maybe you're working with Vincent. Maybe this is another one of his games." "It's not a game, Mrs. Ashford," Edmund said quietly. "I have a folder in the glove compartment with everything we've gathered on your husband. Bank records, photographs, transaction logs. You're welcome to look through it." "But not tonight," Vivian interjected. "Tonight, you're cold, you're in shock, and you need rest. We're going to take you to my home in Greenwich. You can have a hot meal, a warm bed, and in the morning, when your head is clearer, we can talk about everything. If you decide you don't want to be involved, Edmund will drive you wherever you want to go. No obligations." I sat there in silence, my mind spinning. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen in real life. You didn't get abandoned by your husband only to be picked up by a blind billionaire who happened to be investigating him for fraud. And yet, here I was. "Why me?" I asked finally. "Even if everything you're saying is true, why would you help me? You don't know me." Vivian was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, touched with old grief. "I had a granddaughter, Celestine. She would have been your age now, perhaps a few years younger. She died 5 years ago. A car accident." She paused to compose herself. "When Edmund showed me your photograph, I saw something in your face that reminded me of her. The same kindness, the same sadness, the same spark that someone had been trying to extinguish for too long." She turned toward me, and even though her eyes couldn't see me, I felt the full weight of her attention. "I couldn't save my Celestine," she said, "but perhaps I can save you, and in doing so, perhaps I can find some peace." I felt tears streaming down my face again, but this time they weren't from cold or shock or humiliation. They were from something I hadn't felt in so long, I had almost forgotten what it was. Hope. "Okay," I whispered. "Take me to your home. I'll listen to what you have to say." Vivian nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "Edmund, let's go." As the car pulled away from the side of the road, Vivian leaned in close to me and whispered something that would stay with me for the rest of my life. "Your husband left you on this road thinking he was destroying you, Eleanor. But he made a terrible mistake. He didn't destroy you. He set you free. And he's going to regret this moment for the rest of his miserable life." I looked out the window as the Connecticut countryside rolled past, the darkness now complete. Somewhere behind us, Vincent was probably congratulating himself on putting me in my place. He had no idea what was coming, and for the first time in 32 years, I felt something stirring inside me. Not fear, not shame. Not the desperate need to please, something else entirely, something that felt like power. The drive to Greenwich took about 40 minutes. Vivian didn't push me to talk, and I was grateful for the silence. My mind needed time to process everything that had happened in the span of an hour. The fight with Vincent, the abandonment, meeting Vivian and Edmund, the revelation that my husband was not just an emotional abuser, but a criminal. It was too much. And yet, strangely, it also felt like the final piece of a puzzle I had been trying to solve for 3 decades. I had always known something was deeply wrong with Vincent. I had always sensed that his cruelty wasn't just about control, but about something darker. Now I knew what that something was. When we pulled up to Vivian's estate, I couldn't help but gasp. Even in the darkness, I could see that the house was massive, a Georgian-style mansion that sprawled across what had to be several acres of manicured grounds. Lights glowed warmly from dozens of windows, and the front entrance was flanked by columns that would have looked at home in a European palace. "Welcome to my home," Vivian said as Edmund helped her out of the car. "It's too big for just me, I know, but it was my husband's pride and joy, and I can't bring myself to leave it." I stepped out of the car on shaky legs, still trying to take it all in. This woman was clearly wealthy beyond anything I had imagined, and she had chosen to help me. A stranger, a nobody, or maybe not a nobody. Maybe that was what Vincent had wanted me to believe all along. Edmund led us inside, and I was immediately enveloped by warmth and the subtle scent of roses. A housekeeper appeared, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, who took one look at me and immediately began clucking with concern. "Oh my goodness, you poor dear. You look frozen through. Come, come, let me get you something warm to eat and some fresh clothes." "Thank you, Margaret," Vivian said. "Please take good care of Eleanor. She's had a very difficult evening." As Margaret led me away toward the kitchen, I glanced back at Vivian. She was standing in the foyer, her hand resting lightly on Edmund's arm, her face serene and unreadable. "Rest tonight, Eleanor," she called after me. "Tomorrow we begin." I didn't know exactly what she meant by that, but as I followed Margaret through the magnificent house, eating the soup she prepared and changing into the soft pajamas she provided, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt safe, and I felt ready. Tomorrow I would learn everything. Tomorrow I would make a choice. But tonight, for the first time in longer than I could remember, I would sleep without fear. Vincent Ashford had no idea what he had started when he left me on that road. But he was about to find out. I woke up the next morning in the softest bed I had ever slept in, surrounded by cream-colored silk sheets and the gentle light of a Connecticut autumn filtering through gauze curtains. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Then everything came flooding back. Vincent, the road, Vivian. I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how I had gotten to this point. 56 years old, with nothing to my name except the clothes on my back, which weren't even mine. How does a woman let herself end up like this? I knew the answer, of course. It happens slowly. So slowly you don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. I met Vincent Ashford when I was 24 years old. I was working as an assistant curator at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, fresh out of graduate school, full of dreams and ambition. He walked into the gallery one afternoon during a private showing, tall and distinguished with silver-streaked hair even then, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. He asked me about a Rothko painting. I explained the artist's use of color fields to evoke emotional responses. He listened with what seemed like genuine interest, his dark eyes never leaving my face. "You're passionate about this," he said when I finished. "I can see it in your eyes when you talk." No one had ever said anything like that to me before. My father had always told me that art history was a waste of time, that I should have studied something practical. My mother had died when I was 12, and my older sister Margaret had been too busy raising her own family to pay much attention to mine. I was used to being overlooked, undervalued, dismissed. But Vincent saw me, or at least that's what I thought. He asked me to dinner that night. I said yes. Within 3 months, we were engaged. Within 6, we were married. Everyone said I was the luckiest woman in the world. Vincent Ashford was wealthy, handsome, charming. He took me to Paris for our honeymoon. He bought me a diamond necklace that made me feel like a princess. He told me every day that I was beautiful, that I was special, that he couldn't live without me. I didn't see the warning signs. Or maybe I did, and I chose to ignore them. The first time he criticized my appearance was about 2 months after the wedding. We were getting ready for a dinner party at his business partner's home, and I had chosen a red dress that I thought was elegant and sophisticated. "You're not wearing that," Vincent said, his voice flat. I looked down at the dress, confused. "Why not? I thought you liked red on me." "It's too attention-seeking. People will think you're trying to show off. He walked to the closet and pulled out a beige dress I had never particularly liked. Wear this instead. You want to look classy, not desperate. I changed into the beige dress. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. He just had strong opinions about fashion. Lots of men did. But it wasn't just the dress. Over the next few years, Vincent had opinions about everything. My hair was too long, then too short. My makeup was too heavy, then too minimal. My friends were too loud, too opinionated, too much of a bad influence. "That woman Rebecca is filling your head with nonsense," he said after I came home from a lunch with my best friend from college. "She's jealous of what we have. She wants to poison you against me." "That's not true," I protested. "Rebecca's my oldest friend. She just wants me to be happy." "And you're not happy with me?" Vincent's voice had that dangerous edge to it, the one that made my stomach clench. "After everything I've given you, everything I've done for you, you're telling me you're not happy?" "Of course I'm happy," I said quickly. Too quickly. I didn't mean it like that. I stopped seeing Rebecca after that. It was easier than fighting with Vincent about it. And really, what was the harm? I had plenty of other friends. Or so I thought. One by one, they all disappeared. Vincent always had a reason. This one was a gossip. That one was trying to flirt with him. Another one had made some comment about our marriage that he found offensive. By our 5th anniversary, I had no close friends left. Then he started on my family. My sister Margaret had never liked Vincent. She saw through his charm in a way I couldn't or wouldn't. "There's something off about him, Ellie," she told me at Christmas that year. "The way he watches you, the way he controls everything you do. It's not normal." I defended him, of course. That's what you do when you're in love. When you've built your whole identity around being someone's wife. "You don't know him like I do," I said. "He's just protective. He loves me." Margaret and I got into a terrible fight that night. Vincent was right there, listening, but he didn't say a word. He just let me dig myself deeper and deeper, destroying my relationship with the only family I had left. I didn't speak to Margaret for the next 15 years. By our 10th anniversary, Vincent had convinced me to leave my job at the museum. "My wife doesn't need to work," he said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "What will people think, that I can't provide for my own family?" I loved my job. I loved the art, the research, the feeling of contributing something meaningful to the world. But Vincent made it clear that continuing to work would be a betrayal of our marriage, an insult to his ability as a provider. So I quit. After that, I had nothing but him. No job, no friends, no family, just Vincent and the beautiful prison of a house he had built around me. The emotional abuse escalated gradually, as it always does. First it was criticism disguised as concern. Then it was insults disguised as jokes. Then it was outright cruelty, always followed by expensive gifts and tearful apologies. "I didn't mean it, Eleanor. You know I love you. I just get so stressed with work. You understand, don't you? You're the only one who understands me. And I would forgive him, every single time. Because I had no one else. Because I had been so thoroughly isolated that I couldn't imagine surviving without him. Because some part of me had started to believe that everything he said about me was true. That I was stupid, useless, lucky to have a man like him. We never had children. I wanted them desperately in the early years, but Vincent always said the timing wasn't right. Too focused on building his career. Too much traveling, maybe next year. And then next year became the year after, and the year after that, until I was 45, and my doctor gently told me that the window had closed. I cried for weeks after that appointment. Vincent's response was to book us a trip to Italy. "At least now we can travel whenever we want," he said cheerfully, as if my grief was nothing more than an inconvenience. I realize now that he never intended to have children with me. Children would have given me something to focus on besides him, someone to love who wasn't under his control. He couldn't have that. The financial abuse was just as systematic. Vincent insisted on managing all our money. "I'm the one with the business degree," he said reasonably. "You wouldn't understand the complexities of our investments." He gave me a credit card with a modest limit for household expenses, but I had to justify every purchase. If I spent too much on groceries, he would lecture me about waste. If I bought myself something nice, he would make pointed comments about frivolity. I never saw our bank statements, never knew how much money we actually had, never had access to any accounts in my own name. When I finally found the courage to ask about it, about 10 years ago, Vincent looked at me with such cold fury that I never asked again. "Do you not trust me?" he demanded. "After everything I've done for this family, you're questioning my integrity?" "No, of course not," I stammered. "I was just curious." "Curiosity killed the cat, Eleanor. Remember that." I remembered. I remembered everything, every humiliation, every insult, every time he made me feel worthless and small. But I stayed. Year after year, I stayed. Until 3 days ago. I found the text messages by accident. Vincent had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he went to take a shower, and it buzzed with an incoming message. I glanced at it without thinking, expecting it to be a work notification. Instead, I saw a name I didn't recognize. Kristen. And a message that made my blood run cold. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. When are you finally going to leave the old burden behind? You promised it would be soon." My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew Vincent would be furious if he caught me. But something inside me, some part of me that he hadn't managed to completely destroy, needed to know. I scrolled through months of messages, photographs, plans, promises. Vincent had been seeing this woman for over 2 years. She was 28 years old, blonde, beautiful. He had been giving her money, buying her jewelry, taking her on trips that I thought were business travel. And he had been promising her that he would leave me, that I was just a burden he needed to get rid of. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. I didn't say anything that night or the next day. I needed time to think, to process, to figure out what to do. But my hands shook every time I looked at him. My voice trembled when I spoke. And Vincent, who had spent 32 years studying me, reading me, controlling me, noticed. On the third night, he suggested we take a drive. "You've seemed stressed lately," he said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Let's go for a ride. It'll clear your head." 15 minutes into the drive, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The question just burst out of me, raw and ragged. "Who is Kristen?" The silence in the car was absolute. I watched Vincent's profile, saw his jaw tighten, saw his knuckles go white on the steering wheel. "Where did you hear that name?" His voice was ice. "I saw your phone. I saw the messages." Tears were streaming down my face now, but I couldn't stop talking. "How could you, after everything I gave up for you, after 32 years? He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He didn't even try to explain. Instead, he pulled the car over to the side of the road, got out, walked around to my door and yanked it open. "Get out." "Vincent, please, we can talk about this." I said, "Get out." He grabbed my purse from my lap, took my phone from my hand. "You want to spy on me? You want to question me? Fine. Let's see how you do on your own. Let's see how long your independence lasts." He shoved me out of the car. I stumbled on the gravel, fell to my knees. By the time I got back to my feet, he was already pulling away, the taillights of the Mercedes disappearing around a curve. And that's how I ended up on the side of a road in Connecticut, with nothing but the clothes on my back and 32 years of regret. That's how I ended up in Vivienne Delacroix's car. That's how I ended up here, in this mansion, with the first real chance I'd had in decades to take back my life. As I finally got out of bed that morning, I made a decision. I was done being a victim. I was done being Vincent's old burden. Whatever Vivienne had to tell me, whatever evidence she had gathered against my husband, I wanted to hear it. not because I wanted revenge. Well, not only because I wanted revenge, but because for the first time in 32 years, I was ready to find out who Eleanor Ashford really was. And I had a feeling she was someone much stronger than Vincent had ever allowed her to be. I found Vivian in the conservatory after breakfast, seated in a high-backed chair with her face turned toward the morning sun streaming through the glass walls. She looked peaceful, almost ethereal, with her white hair catching the light like a halo. For a moment, I hesitated to disturb her. "Come in, Eleanor," she said without turning. "I've been waiting for you." I stepped into the room, still marveling at how she seemed to sense everything despite her blindness. "How did you know I was there?" "Your perfume. Margaret gave you some of my lavender soap this morning. I'd recognize that scent anywhere." She gestured to the chair beside her. "Sit. We have much to discuss." I sat, my hands folded in my lap, suddenly nervous. In the light of day, everything from last night seemed surreal. Had I really climbed into a stranger's car? Had I really agreed to stay in this mansion with a woman I didn't know? "You're having second thoughts," Vivian observed. "That's natural. You're wondering if you can trust me, if this is real, if perhaps you should just go back to Vincent and try to make it work." "How do you—" "Because that's what women like us do, Eleanor. We doubt ourselves. We question our instincts. We've been trained to believe that our perceptions are wrong, that our feelings don't matter, that we should always give one more chance." She turned her face toward me. "But your instincts brought you to my car last night, and they're telling you right now that staying here is the right choice. Am I wrong?" I thought about it, really thought about it, and she was right. Despite everything, despite how insane this situation was, I felt safer in this house with these strangers than I had felt in my own home for decades. "No," I said quietly. "You're not wrong." "Good." Vivian pressed a button on the table beside her, and moments later, Edmund appeared carrying a thick manila folder. "Then let's begin." Edmund placed the folder on the table between us and opened it. Inside were documents, photographs, spreadsheets. My eyes scanned the pages, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. "What is all this?" "This," Edmund said, his voice measured, "is 6 months of investigation into your husband's activities. Bank records from 3 different offshore accounts, transaction logs showing systematic transfers of client funds, photographs documenting his relationship with Kristen Weatherly, including receipts for jewelry, hotel rooms, and an apartment he's been renting for her in Manhattan." My stomach turned as I looked at the photos, Vincent and a blonde woman laughing together at a restaurant I recognized. Vincent's hand on her waist as they entered a building. Vincent kissing her in what looked like the doorway of an apartment. "There's more," Edmund continued. He pulled out another set of photos, and my breath caught. A woman with 2 young children, a boy and a girl, standing outside a brownstone in what looked like Boston. "This is Monica Reynolds. She's 38 years old, works as a nurse at Massachusetts General. Those are her children, Theodore, age 8, Charlotte, age 6. I stared at the photos, not understanding. "Who is she?" "Vincent's other wife," Vivian said softly. The room spun. I gripped the arms of my chair, trying to stay upright. "His what?" "They're not legally married," Edmund clarified. "You're still his legal wife, but he's been living a double life for the past 9 years. He tells Monica that he's a consultant who travels frequently for work. He bought her that brownstone, pays for everything. As far as those children know, Vincent Ashford is their father who comes home every other weekend." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. 9 years. He had been doing this for 9 years. Those children, they were 8 and 6, which meant he had been with Monica since before the younger one was born. Which meant that during all those years when I was grieving the children we never had, he was raising children with someone else. "I'm going to be sick," I whispered. Margaret appeared with a glass of water, her face full of sympathy. "Drink this, dear. Slow sips." I drank, the cold water helping to clear my head slightly. "How did you find all this?" Edmund pulled up a chair. Mrs. Delacroix's late husband, Philippe, was a venture capitalist, very successful, very connected. When he passed away 5 years ago, several of his former associates came to me. I handle security for the family, with concerns about some of their investments, specifically investments managed by Ashford Wealth Management. Vincent's firm, I said numbly. Yes. At first, the losses seemed like normal market fluctuations, but one of the associates, a man named Thomas Chen, became suspicious. He hired me to look into it quietly. What I found was a pattern of systematic theft. Vincent would take money from high-net-worth clients, move it through a series of shell companies, and eventually funnel it into accounts under various names. Over the past 8 years, he's stolen approximately $4.2 million. But why? I looked at Vivian. Vincent comes from money. His family has always been wealthy. Why would he need to steal? Because appearances are expensive, Vivian said. The penthouse in Manhattan, the estate in the Hamptons, the cars, the clubs, the lifestyle. And then there's Monica, and the children, and Kristen, and who knows how many others there have been over the years. Your husband isn't wealthy, Eleanor. He's drowning in debt, using stolen money to maintain the illusion of wealth. I thought about all the times Vincent had told me I was spending too much on groceries, on clothes, on anything at all. All the times he'd made me feel guilty for wanting the smallest luxury. And all along he was hemorrhaging money on other women, on his secret life. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked Edmund. We did. We've been working with the FBI for 3 months now. But Vincent is careful, very careful. Every transaction has layers of deniability. We needed more time to build an airtight case. He paused. And then last night happened. When I saw him abandon you on that road, I knew we couldn't wait any longer. A man who would do that to his wife of 32 years is capable of anything. Vivian reached over and took my hand. Eleanor, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Over the years, did you ever sign documents for Vincent without reading them? Papers, he said, were just routine, nothing to worry about? I felt my face grow hot with shame. Yes, many times. He would come home with stacks of papers, say they were tax forms or property documents, tell me to sign where he'd marked with a sticky note. I trusted him. Of course you did. He made sure of that. Vivian squeezed my hand. Eleanor, we believe some of those documents may have been legal instruments that make you appear complicit in his fraud. If Vincent goes down, he'll try to take you with him. He'll say you knew everything, that you benefited from the stolen money, that you were a willing participant. The full horror of my situation crashed over me. I wasn't just a discarded wife. I was a potential scapegoat. Vincent had spent years positioning me to take the fall for his crimes. What do I do? My voice came out small, frightened. You fight back, Vivian said firmly. We have one advantage that Vincent doesn't know about. He thinks he's destroyed you, that you're broken and helpless. He has no idea you're here, safe, learning the truth. He certainly doesn't know we've been investigating him. Right now, he probably thinks you're wandering around Connecticut, desperate to come home and apologize. I got 3 missed calls from him this morning, I admitted. Margaret gave me a phone to use. He left voicemails. The first one was angry, saying I was being childish. The second one was worried, asking me to please just call him so he knows I'm safe. The third one... I swallowed hard. The third one said, if I didn't come home today, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. Edmund's jaw tightened. Classic abuser playbook. Rage, then fake concern, then threats. He'll cycle through those patterns until he finds what works. Don't call him back, Vivian instructed. Let him wonder. Let him worry. Fear makes people careless, and we need him careless. But what's the plan? How do I fight someone who controls everything? Vivian smiled, and there was steel in it. First, we get you protected legally. I've arranged for you to meet with Diane Rothstein this afternoon. She's the best divorce attorney in Connecticut, maybe in the entire country. She's handled cases involving hidden assets, financial fraud, everything we're dealing with here. She'll file for divorce immediately and get emergency orders freezing Vincent's access to joint accounts. But I don't have money for an attorney like that. You let me worry about the money. Consider it an investment in justice. Vivian leaned back in her chair. Second, we need you to make a formal statement to the FBI. Tell them everything. The isolation, the financial control, the documents you signed without understanding them. We need to establish that you were a victim, not a co-conspirator. They'll believe me? They will when they see the pattern, Edmund said. We have statements from Monica as well. She's agreed to cooperate once she learned the truth about Vincent. She thought she was his only partner. Finding out about you devastated her. I felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for Monica. She was another victim, just like me. Can I talk to her? Eventually, yes. But first, we need to get through the next few days. Vincent will likely try to find you. He'll hire people, check hospitals, call anyone he thinks might know where you are. We need you to stay here, stay safe, and let us handle the logistics. What about my things? My clothes, my personal items? Edmund can retrieve what you need. Make a list. Vivian tilted her head, considering. Although, I'd like to suggest something. The Eleanor who left that house isn't the Eleanor who's going back to face Vincent. Perhaps it's time for a new wardrobe. Something that reflects who you really are, not who he wanted you to be. I looked down at the borrowed clothes I was wearing, then around at the elegant conservatory with its sunshine and flowering plants. Vivian was right. The woman who had lived in fear for 32 years was gone, left on the side of that road. The woman sitting here now needed to be different. Okay, I said. Yes, I want that. Over the next several hours, my life became a whirlwind of activity. Diane Rothstein arrived at noon, a striking woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair cut in a sharp bob and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. "This is good," she said when I finished. "Not good that it happened to you, obviously, but good for our case. The abandonment, the financial control, the fact that you had no access to accounts, this all supports a claim of financial abuse. Combined with the evidence of his fraud, we can make a very strong argument that you were victimized, not complicit. How long will the divorce take? With someone like Vincent? Could be a year or more. He'll fight every step, but I'm filing emergency motions tomorrow morning. By tomorrow afternoon, he won't be able to access any joint accounts without court approval. We'll also get a restraining order if you want one." "I do." "Good. I'll include that in the filing." Diane closed her notepad. "Mrs. Ashford, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen dozens of women in situations similar to yours. Many of them end up going back to their abusers. The pull is strong, the familiarity, the financial fear, the conditioning. I need to know that you're committed to seeing this through." I thought about Vincent's face when he threw me out of the car, the casual cruelty of it, the messages to Kristen about the old burden, the children he'd fathered with Monica while telling me the timing was never right for us. "I'm committed," I said firmly. "I'm done being his victim." Diane smiled. "Then we're going to get along just fine." The FBI agents arrived at 2 o'clock. Agent Sarah Morrison and Agent David Park, both in their 40s, both with the kind of serious demeanor that made everything feel suddenly very real. They set up a recording device on the dining room table and asked me to start from the beginning. I told them everything. The isolation, the control, the way Vincent had systematically destroyed my independence, the documents I'd signed, the way he'd forbidden me from knowing about our finances. Agent Morrison's expression grew darker with every detail. "Mrs. Ashford, I want to be clear about something," she said when I finished. "Based on what you've told us and the evidence Mr. Hartley has provided, we don't consider you a suspect. You're a witness and a victim. But if this goes to trial, the defense will try to paint you as complicit. They'll point to your signature on those documents and claim you knew exactly what was happening. But I didn't. We believe you, but you need to be prepared for them to attack your credibility. They'll say you're lying to save yourself, that you enjoyed the benefits of the stolen money, that you're a scorned wife seeking revenge. It won't be easy. I looked at Vivian, who was sitting quietly at the end of the table. She nodded encouragingly. I can handle it, I said. Whatever I have to do, I'll do it. Good. Agent Park slid a document across the table. This is an agreement to cooperate with our investigation. It means you'll provide testimony, sit for depositions, and potentially testify at trial. In exchange, we agree not to pursue charges against you for any documents you may have signed under duress. I signed it without hesitation. After the agents left, I felt simultaneously exhausted and energized. For the first time in decades, I had taken concrete action to change my life. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was fighting back. You did well today, Vivian said as we had tea in the library. Better than well. You were strong, clear, composed. Vincent has no idea what's coming. When will he find out? About the divorce filing, I mean. He'll be served papers tomorrow morning, probably at his office, which will be humiliating for him. Good. She sipped her tea delicately. And then, my dear, the real battle begins. He'll rage. He'll threaten. He'll try every manipulation tactic he knows. You must stay strong. What if he comes here? Edmund has already upgraded security, and we have the restraining order being filed. If he shows up, he'll be arrested. I nodded, trying to feel as confident as she sounded. But part of me, the part that had been conditioned for 32 years, was terrified of Vincent's reaction. He had always seemed so powerful, so in control. Could I really stand up to him? As if reading my thoughts, Vivian set down her teacup and turned to me. Eleanor, let me tell you a story. When my husband Philippe died, his business partners assumed I would sell my shares in his company and fade away quietly. I was a grieving widow after all. What did I know about venture capital? She smiled. But Philippe had taught me everything. I knew every investment, every deal, every relationship. So instead of fading away, I took over his seat on the board. What happened? They tried to push me out. They patronized me, dismissed my ideas, talked over me in meetings. For 6 months I endured their condescension, and then I systematically destroyed them. I found proof that 3 of them were embezzling funds. I exposed their scheme to the authorities. By the end of that year, I was chairwoman of the board, and they were all in prison. I stared at her. You did that? I did, because I learned something important, Eleanor. The people who underestimate us give us our greatest advantage. Vincent thinks you're weak, broken, dependent. He has no idea that the woman he abandoned on that road is now surrounded by resources, information, and allies. He's walking into a trap of his own making. Her words sent a thrill through me. She was right. Vincent had always underestimated me. He'd spent decades telling me I was nothing without him, that I couldn't survive on my own. But he was wrong. I had survived. And now I was going to do more than survive. I was going to win. That evening, my phone rang. Vincent. I looked at Vivian, who nodded. Answer it. Let's see what he has to say. I pressed the button, my hand surprisingly steady. Hello, Vincent. Where the hell are you? His voice was acid. I've been calling all day. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? People are asking questions, Eleanor. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them the truth, that you threw your wife out of the car and drove away. Silence. Then, in a different tone, softer. Baby, I was upset. You know how I get when I'm stressed. I drove around for a while to cool off, and when I came back, you were gone. I've been worried sick. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. A month ago, I would have believed him, would have apologized for making him worry, would have rushed back to comfort him. I'm not coming home, Vincent. Don't be ridiculous. Where else would you go? You have no one, no money, no... I have everything I need. And tomorrow morning, you're going to be served with divorce papers. I suggest you hire a good attorney. You're going to need one." I hung up before he could respond. My heart was pounding, but I felt good, strong, free. Vivian was smiling. "And so it begins." The phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off. "He'll come looking for me," I said. "Let him. We're ready." Edmund appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Mrs. Ashford, there's something else you should know. We've been monitoring Vincent's communications. After you hung up, he made a call to someone named Richard Moss. Mr. Moss is a private investigator with a reputation for aggressive tactics. He's going to try to find me. He won't succeed, but it confirms what we suspected. Vincent isn't going to take this lying down. He's going to fight dirty." "Then so will we," I said, and I meant it. For 32 years, I had played by Vincent's rules, lived in his world, accepted his version of reality. Not anymore. Now we were playing by my rules, and he was about to discover that the old burden he'd thrown away was the biggest mistake of his miserable life. Vincent found me 3 days later. I was in Vivian's library reading a catalog from the Guggenheim's latest exhibition when I heard raised voices in the foyer. My blood went cold. I knew that voice. "I know she's here. Eleanor! Eleanor, get out here right now!" I stood frozen, the catalog slipping from my hands. Vivian, who had been sitting across from me, remained perfectly calm. "Stay here," she said quietly. "Edmund will handle it." But I couldn't stay. Something inside me, some new part that had been growing over the past 3 days, needed to face him, needed to look him in the eye and not flinch. I walked to the foyer. Vincent was standing just inside the entrance, held back by Edmund's considerable presence. My husband looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his tie was loose, and there was something wild in his eyes I had never seen before. Behind him, 2 police officers stood at the doorway, clearly summoned by Edmund. When Vincent saw me, his face transformed. First shock, then rage, then a calculated softness that I recognized all too well. "Eleanor, thank God, I've been so worried." He tried to move toward me, but Edmund blocked his path. "Baby, please, let's just go home and talk about this. Whatever's going on, whatever you think happened, we can work it out." "I'm not going anywhere with you," I said, and I was proud of how steady my voice sounded. "What has this woman been telling you?" Vincent gestured at Vivian, who had appeared silently beside me. "Eleanor, this is insane. You can't just disappear for 3 days and then file for divorce. We're married. We made vows." "You broke those vows a long time ago, Vincent." His face darkened. "I don't know what lies you've been fed, but I know about Monica," I said, and watched the color drain from his face. "I know about Theodore and Charlotte. I know about the apartment in Manhattan you're renting for Kristen. I know about the money you've been stealing from your clients. I know everything." The silence that followed was absolute. Vincent's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. For the first time in 32 years, I had rendered him speechless. "That's not... You don't understand," he finally stammered. "Eleanor, you're confused. These people are manipulating you, using you." "No, Vincent, you're the one who's been manipulating me for our entire marriage." He took a different tack, his voice turning cold. "Fine. You want a divorce? You'll get nothing. Everything is in my name. The house, the cars, the accounts. You signed a prenup, remember? You'll walk away with exactly what you brought into this marriage. Nothing." "Actually," Diane Rothstein's voice cut through the tension as she emerged from the sitting room, "Mrs. Ashford will walk away with quite a bit more than that. The prenup is invalid due to fraud and coercion. The court will see to that. And as for the assets in your name, Mr. Ashford, most of them are going to be frozen pending investigation into your financial crimes. Vincent's eyes widened. "Who the hell are you?" "Diane Rothstein, Mrs. Ashford's attorney. You were served with papers this morning. I'm surprised you have time for this little visit, given that the FBI is also looking for you. Something about needing to ask you questions about some irregularities in your client accounts?" I watched Vincent's face cycle through emotions: shock, fear, rage, and finally, calculation. This was the moment I had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. The moment he realized he was losing control. "You stupid bitch," he said, his voice low and venomous. "You have no idea what you've done. You think these people care about you? They're using you to get to me. Once they're done, they'll throw you away just like I did." The words should have hurt. A week ago, they would have devastated me. But now, standing in Vivian's foyer with Edmund and Diane flanking me, I felt nothing but pity for this man who had wasted so much of my life. "Officers," Edmund said to the policeman at the door, "Mr. Ashford has violated the restraining order that was issued this morning. He's also trespassing on private property." "What? No!" Vincent spun toward the officers. "This is my wife. I have a right to see my wife." "You have no rights here, sir," one of the officers said, stepping forward. "You need to leave the property immediately, or we'll be forced to arrest you." Vincent's face twisted with rage. "This isn't over, Eleanor. You hear me? I will destroy you. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. A pathetic, desperate woman who couldn't hold on to her husband." "Sir, that's enough," the officer said firmly, taking Vincent's arm. But Vincent wrenched free, jabbing his finger toward me. "You'll regret this. Everything you think you have, everything you think you know, I'll take it all away. You're nothing without me. Nothing." The officers grabbed him then, more forcefully, and began pulling him toward the door. Vincent fought them, still screaming. "You'll come crawling back. You always do. And when you do, I won't be there. You'll have nothing, no one. You'll die alone and forgotten." The door closed behind him, cutting off his voice. Through the window, I watched as they guided him, still struggling, still shouting, toward his car. The officers spoke to him sternly, then watched as he finally got into his Mercedes and drove away, tires screeching on the gravel drive. I realized I was shaking, not from fear, but from something else. Something like exhilaration. "Well," Vivian said calmly, "that went about as expected." I turned to her, and suddenly I was laughing. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, Vincent's rage, his threats, his complete inability to accept that I had slipped beyond his control. It was almost funny. "He really believes it," I said between laughs that were edging toward tears. "He really believes I'm nothing without him." "Men like Vincent can't comprehend their own obsolescence," Diane said, checking something on her phone. "They build their entire identity on controlling others. When that control is threatened, they fall apart. And speaking of falling apart, the FBI just called. They're moving up their timeline. They want to bring Vincent in for questioning tomorrow morning." "Why the rush?" "Because of what just happened here. His behavior demonstrates consciousness of guilt. The fact that he showed up here, violated a restraining order, made threats. It all shows he's becoming unstable. They're worried he might flee or destroy evidence." Edmund nodded. "I recorded the entire confrontation. His threats are clear. This will be very useful." I sank into a chair, the adrenaline suddenly draining from my body. "Is it always going to be like this? Him showing up, threatening me, trying to intimidate me back into submission?" "Not after he's arrested," Diane said. "Once the federal charges are filed, his attention will be on saving himself, not on you. He'll have much bigger problems than a divorce." Vivian came to sit beside me, her hand finding mine with unerring accuracy. "Eleanor, look at what you just did. You stood in front of the man who terrorized you for 32 years, and you didn't flinch. You didn't apologize. You didn't back down. Do you understand how extraordinary that is?" I thought about it. She was right. A week ago, Vincent's anger would have sent me into a panic spiral of apologies and promises to do better. Today, I had stood my ground. I had looked him in the eye and told him the truth. And I had survived. More than survived. I had won. "There's something else," Edmund said. "While Mr. Ashford was here making a scene, my contacts at the FBI were executing a search warrant at his office. They're seizing his computers, his files, everything. By this time tomorrow, Vincent Ashford's world will have completely collapsed." "And the gala?" Vivian asked. "The Metropolitan fundraiser?" 3 weeks from tonight," Diane confirmed. "Vincent's already on the guest list. He's one of the major donors." A slow smile spread across Vivian's face. "Perfect. Eleanor, how would you feel about attending a party?" I understood immediately what she was suggesting. The Metropolitan fundraiser was the social event of the season. Everyone who was anyone in New York and Connecticut would be there, including Vincent. "You want me to go? Even though he'll be there?" "I want you to walk into that ballroom on my arm, wearing something spectacular, showing everyone that you're not just surviving without Vincent Ashford. You're thriving. I want him to see exactly what he threw away. And I want everyone else to see it too, right before his entire world comes crashing down." It was bold. It was risky. It was everything the old Eleanor would never have considered. "Yes," I heard myself say. "Let's do it." Diane grinned. "Now we're talking. I'll make sure the divorce proceedings are well underway by then. The optics will be perfect." "And I'll make sure certain journalists are in attendance," Vivian added. "The kind who know how to ask the right questions at the right time." Edmund checked his watch. "Mrs. Delacroix, we should let Mrs. Ashford rest. It's been an eventful afternoon." As everyone dispersed to make their various plans, I remained in the chair, processing everything that had just happened. Vincent had found me. He had threatened me. He had tried to break me. And he had failed. For the first time, I truly believed that I was going to survive this. Not just survive. I was going to emerge stronger than I had ever been. The old Eleanor had died on the side of that Connecticut road. The woman sitting here now was someone new. Someone Vincent had never met and couldn't begin to understand. And in 3 weeks, at the Metropolitan fundraiser, the entire world would meet her too. I smiled, thinking about Vincent's face when he saw me. Thinking about the shock, the rage, the impotent fury. He thought he had destroyed me by leaving me on that road. He had no idea he had set me free. The 3 weeks leading up to the Metropolitan fundraiser passed in a blur of depositions, legal meetings, and FBI interviews. Vincent had been arrested 2 days after his outburst at Vivian's estate, charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. He posted bail immediately, $2 million that I now knew came from stolen funds, and hired a team of expensive lawyers who were doing everything they could to delay the proceedings. But the damage was done. The story had leaked to the press. "Prominent investment manager arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme," read the headline in the Wall Street Journal. His clients were fleeing in droves. The firm was collapsing. And Vincent, according to Edmund's sources, was barely holding himself together. Good. I spent those 3 weeks reclaiming myself. Vivian had a personal shopper come to the house with racks of clothing in styles I had never been allowed to wear. Rich jewel tones instead of Vincent's preferred neutrals. Fitted silhouettes that showed my figure instead of hiding it. When I looked in the mirror now, I saw a woman I barely recognized, but one I was beginning to love. I also reconnected with my sister Margaret. The phone call was awkward at first. 15 years of silence standing between us like a wall. "Ellie?" Her voice cracked when she heard mine. "Is it really you?" "It's me, Maggie. I'm so sorry, for everything. You were right about him. You were right about all of it. We talked for 3 hours that day, and several times a week after that. She told me about her life, her grown children, her grandkids. I told her about Vincent, about the abuse, about everything. She never once said, 'I told you so.' She just listened and cried with me and told me she loved me. I'm coming to Connecticut next month, she said during our last call before the gala. I want to meet this Vivian who saved you, and I want to be there for you through all of this. I'd like that, I said, and meant it. Now, standing in front of the mirror in Vivian's guest room, I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. The dress Vivian had chosen was stunning, a deep emerald silk that draped elegantly across my body with a neckline that was sophisticated without being revealing. My gray hair, which Vincent had always wanted me to dye, was styled in soft waves. Margaret's pearl earrings, a gift from our mother, glinted at my ears. "You look magnificent," Vivian said from the doorway. She was wearing ivory, as always, with sapphires at her throat that probably cost more than most houses. "I'm nervous," I admitted. "Of course you are. You're about to walk into a room full of people who knew you as Vincent's submissive wife. You're about to show them someone entirely different. That would make anyone nervous." She came to stand beside me, her hand finding my arm. "But remember, Eleanor, you've already won. Everything that happens tonight is just the victory lap." Edmund drove us to the Metropolitan Museum in Vivian's Rolls-Royce. As we pulled up to the entrance, I saw the red carpet, the photographers, the crowd of elegantly dressed people making their way inside. My stomach churned. "He's already here," Edmund said quietly, checking his phone. "Arrived 20 minutes ago with his legal team. He's trying to project confidence." "Let him try," Vivian said. "Eleanor, are you ready?" I took a deep breath. Thought about everything Vincent had done to me, everything he had taken, and everything I had taken back. "I'm ready." Edmund helped Vivian out first, then me. The moment my heels touched the red carpet, I felt the stares. People recognized me. Vincent's wife, who had disappeared from society 3 weeks ago. The whispers started immediately. "Is that Eleanor Ashford? I heard she left him. Didn't he get arrested? She looks completely different." I kept my head high, my hand resting lightly on Vivian's arm as we walked toward the entrance. Cameras flashed. A reporter called out a question that I ignored. And then we were inside, in the grand foyer with its soaring ceilings and marble floors. The ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over hundreds of guests in their finest attire. A string quartet played in one corner. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. And there, across the room near the bar, I saw him. Vincent. He was talking to someone I didn't recognize, but his posture was rigid, his smile forced. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago. Diminished somehow. When his eyes scanned the room and landed on me, I watched his face go through a series of rapid changes. Shock, disbelief, rage. I smiled at him, a small, calm smile that said everything I needed to say. "I survived you. I'm thriving without you. You have no power over me anymore." "He's seen you," Vivian murmured, "and he's not happy about it." "Good." We made our way through the crowd, and I was surprised by how many people approached me. Some were genuinely concerned, asking if I was all right. Others were clearly fishing for gossip. I handled both with the same polite deflection that Vivienne had coached me on. "I'm doing very well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here tonight. The situation is in the hands of my attorneys. I'm not able to discuss it." "That's so kind of you to ask. Yes, I'm staying with friends." After about 30 minutes, I excused myself to use the restroom. I needed a moment alone, away from the stares and whispers. But as I was coming back down the corridor, Vincent stepped out from a side room, blocking my path. "Eleanor, we need to talk." My heart jumped, but I kept my expression neutral. "We have nothing to talk about, Vincent. Please move." "Please move?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're really going to stand there and act like you're in control here? You who couldn't survive a week without me?" "It's been 3 weeks, actually. And I'm doing just fine." His face darkened. "You think you've won? You think because you've got that old blind woman and her attack dog protecting you that this is over? Eleanor, I will drag you down with me. I'll tell everyone you knew about the money, that you helped me hide it, that you were complicit in everything." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "The FBI already knows the truth. They have statements from Monica, from your former associates, from everyone you've hurt. They know I was another one of your victims. But please, Vincent, keep making threats in public places. It really helps my case." I moved to step around him, but he grabbed my arm. His grip was tight, painful. "Let go of me." "Not until you listen. You're going to drop the divorce proceedings. You're going to tell the FBI you were mistaken, that you misunderstood what you saw, and you're going to stand by my side through this like a proper wife should." "I'd rather die." "That can be arranged," he hissed, his face inches from mine. "Mr. Ashford." Edmund's voice cut through the tension like a knife. He appeared at the end of the corridor, his bulk filling the narrow space. "I suggest you remove your hand from Mrs. Ashford immediately." Vincent's grip tightened for a moment, and I saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. Then he released me, stepping back. "This isn't over," he said. "Not by a long shot." "Actually, it is," came another voice. Agent Sarah Morrison stepped out from the same doorway Vincent had emerged from, her FBI badge clearly visible. Behind her was Agent Park and 2 uniformed officers. "Vincent Ashford, you're under arrest for violating the terms of your bail, including the restraining order against your wife, and for witness intimidation. You have the right to remain silent." I watched as they put handcuffs on him, as they read him his rights. Vincent's face was purple with rage, veins standing out on his forehead. "You set me up," he screamed at me. "You brought them here. This is entrapment." "Actually, we've been following you all evening," Agent Morrison said calmly. "We had reason to believe you might approach Mrs. Ashford despite the restraining order. Your behavior confirmed our suspicions." As they led him away, Vincent turned back to look at me one last time. "You'll regret this, Eleanor. You'll regret this for the rest of your life." But his words had no power anymore. They were just noise, the desperate ranting of a man who had finally lost everything. Edmund appeared at my side, concern in his eyes. "Are you all right, Mrs. Ashford?" "I'm fine." And I was. My arm was sore where Vincent had grabbed me, but emotionally I felt light, free. "Thank you, Edmund, for always being there." "It's my honor, ma'am." We returned to the ballroom where the arrest had caused quite a stir. Everyone was talking about it, craning their necks to see what had happened. When I walked back in with Edmund, the room gradually fell silent. Vivian was standing near the center of the ballroom, a glass of champagne in her hand. When she heard the silence, she turned her face toward where she knew I would be. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying across the room, "I'd like to propose a toast." She raised her glass. "To courage, to strength, to women who refuse to be broken, and to my dear friend Eleanor, who has shown us all what it means to reclaim your life." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another person. Then more, until the entire room was applauding. Some of it was probably just for show, people wanting to be on the right side of the scandal. But some of it, I could see it in their faces, was genuine. Women looking at me with understanding, with admiration, with recognition of their own struggles reflected in mine. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. Instead, I walked to Vivian's side, took the champagne glass she offered me, and raised it to the room. "Thank you," I said simply. "Thank you all." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. People I had known during my marriage approached me with newfound respect. Several women pulled me aside to quietly share their own stories of difficult marriages, of escape, of rebuilding. By the time we left, hours later, I felt like a different person than the one who had walked in. No, not different. Just more myself than I had been in 32 years. In the car ride home, Vivian was quiet, a satisfied smile on her face. "You did it," she finally said. You faced him, you stood your ground, and you won. We did it, I corrected. I never could have done this without you. Perhaps, but the strength was always there, Eleanor. I just helped you remember it. When we arrived back at the estate, I was exhausted but exhilarated. Edmund helped Vivian inside, and I started to follow, but Vivian stopped. Eleanor, wait. There's something I want to give you. She reached into her evening bag and pulled out a small velvet box. This was my mother's, then mine. It was going to be Celestine's. I want you to have it. I opened the box. Inside was a delicate gold bracelet with a single charm, a tiny bird with its wings spread in flight. My mother gave it to me when I left home at 18 to start my own life. She said the bird represented freedom, the courage to fly away from everything familiar and create something new. Vivian's voice was thick with emotion. You've done that, Eleanor. You've flown. I think my mother would have liked you very much. I couldn't speak. I just pulled Vivian into a hug. This woman who had saved me, who had believed in me, who had given me back my life. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. That night, lying in bed wearing my mother's pearls and Vivian's bracelet, I thought about Vincent sitting in a jail cell. I thought about the divorce that would be finalized in a few months. I thought about the new life stretching ahead of me, uncertain, yes, but mine, completely and utterly mine. Vincent had thought that abandoning me on that road would destroy me. He thought it would teach me a lesson, make me come crawling back, remind me that I was nothing without him. Instead, it had set me free. And tomorrow, when the newspapers ran their stories about last night's arrest, the whole world would know it too. Vincent Ashford hadn't destroyed his wife by leaving her on the side of the road. He had destroyed himself, and I had never felt more alive. Vincent's trial took place 8 months later. I attended every day, sitting in the gallery with Vivian on one side and Margaret on the other. It was important to me to see it through, to watch as every lie he had ever told was exposed in open court. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, testimony from his victims, emails detailing his schemes. Monica took the stand and described how he had deceived her for 9 years, promising her a future while hiding his real life. I took the stand and told my story. 32 years of control, isolation, and abuse. By the time the prosecution rested, there was no doubt about the outcome. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Vincent received 15 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for at least 10. When the sentence was read, he didn't react. He just sat there, staring straight ahead, a broken man who had finally run out of moves. I felt nothing watching him led away in handcuffs. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. He was simply irrelevant to me now. A chapter of my life that had closed. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. Despite his lawyer's best efforts, the prenup was thrown out. I received 60% of the legitimate assets, about $12 million, money that Vincent had earned before he started stealing. The court also awarded me the Connecticut house, though I had no intention of ever setting foot in it again. I put it on the market immediately. Monica and I met for coffee a month after the trial ended. It was awkward at first, 2 women brought together by their mutual entanglement with the same terrible man. But as we talked, I realized we had more in common than just Vincent. We were both survivors, both rebuilding our lives, both determined not to let what he had done define us. The kids ask about him sometimes, Monica said quietly, stirring her coffee. Especially Theodore. He doesn't understand why his father isn't coming home. What do you tell him? The truth, in terms he can understand. That his father made very bad choices and has to face the consequences, that he hurt a lot of people, including us. She looked up at me. I tell them that the best thing we can do is build a good life without him. Show them that we're stronger than what he did to us. That's exactly right, I said. We made a pact that day, Monica and I, to stay in touch, to support each other, to never let another man make us feel small. She's doing well now. Got a promotion at the hospital, started dating someone kind and honest. Her children are in therapy, working through their feelings about their father, but they're resilient. As for me, my life has transformed in ways I never could have imagined that night on the Connecticut road. I reopened my career in the art world, starting as a consultant for a gallery in Manhattan. Within 6 months, I was offered a position as senior curator. The work fills me with the same joy it did when I was 24, but now I appreciate it more deeply. I know what it's like to have it taken away. I'll never take it for granted again. I also started volunteering with a foundation that helps women escape abusive relationships. Vivienne and I co-founded it, funding it with part of my divorce settlement and her considerable resources. We named it the Celestine Foundation in honor of the granddaughter she lost. We provide legal aid, temporary housing, job training, and counseling. Last year alone, we helped over 300 women start new lives. Every time I meet with one of these women, I see myself in their eyes. The fear, the doubt, the certainty that they can't survive without their abuser. And I tell them what Vivienne told me. The strength is already there. They just need help remembering it. Vivienne lived for 2 more years after that night at the Metropolitan. 2 beautiful, full years where she became the grandmother I had never had, the mentor I had always needed, the friend who saved my life. We traveled together, Paris, Rome, London. She showed me the world that Vincent had used to control me, but this time I saw it through free eyes. She passed away peacefully in her sleep one October morning, exactly 3 years after she found me on that road. I was holding her hand. In her will, she left me the Greenwich estate and named me president of the Celestine Foundation. For my granddaughter of the heart, her letter read, who showed me that family is not just blood, but love and choice. You gave me purpose in my final years, Eleanor. Now I give you the tools to do the same for others. I still live in that house, the one where I first felt safe, where I first believed I could be someone other than Vincent's wife. Edmund still works for me, though now he's more friend than employee. We have dinner together every Sunday, sharing stories and making plans for the foundation. Margaret visits every month. My nieces and nephews, who I barely knew during my marriage, have become precious to me. I'm teaching my great-niece about art history. She's thinking about becoming a curator herself. Last week, I ran into someone from my old life at an exhibition opening. Patricia Sterling, a woman who had been part of Vincent's social circle. She looked at me uncertainly, clearly not sure if she should approach. Eleanor? I wasn't sure if you'd remember me. Of course I remember you, Patricia. How are you? She seemed relieved. I'm well. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for not seeing what was happening, for not reaching out when you disappeared. We all knew Vincent was difficult, but I don't think any of us realized how bad it really was. It's all right, I said, and I meant it. He was very good at hiding it. That's what abusers do. You look wonderful, happy. I am happy. For the first time in a very long time, I'm genuinely happy. And it was true. At 58 years old, I am more content, more fulfilled, more myself than I have ever been. I have meaningful work. I have friends who see me for who I really am. I have a life that is entirely my own. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment on the road. Vincent driving away, leaving me with nothing. At the time, it felt like the end of everything, like my life was over. I understand now that it was actually the beginning. Because when you're stripped of everything you thought defined you, your marriage, your security, your identity as someone's wife, you discover what's really underneath. And what I found underneath all those years of suppression and control was a woman who was smart, capable, strong, and worthy of love. Not Vincent's conditional, controlling love, but real love, self-love, the love of true friends, the love of family reunited. I wear Vivian's bracelet every day, the tiny bird with spread wings forever in flight. When I look at it, I remember that blind woman in the back of a Mercedes offering me salvation when I had lost all hope. I remember her final words to me, whispered in the hospital the day before she died. You saved me too, you know. After Celestine died, I thought my life was over, but you showed me I could still make a difference, still love someone, still matter. Thank you for that gift, my darling girl. Today, I'm sitting in my office at the gallery, preparing for a new exhibition featuring women artists over 50. It's going to be groundbreaking. These are women who were told they were past their prime, that their best work was behind them. We're going to show the world how wrong that thinking is. My phone rings. It's a woman named Sarah calling the foundation's helpline. She's scared, trapped, doesn't know how to leave her husband. I take a deep breath and begin to speak, sharing my story, offering hope. I know exactly how you feel, I tell her. I was where you are now, and I want you to know something important. You are stronger than you think. The life you want is possible. I'm proof of that. After we hang up, after I've connected her with our resources and made sure she has a safety plan, I stand and walk to the window. The Manhattan skyline stretches before me, full of possibility. Vincent thought leaving me on that road would destroy me. He thought taking away his money, his name, his protection would reduce me to nothing. He was wrong about everything. That night on the road, he didn't destroy me. He accidentally set me free. And that one moment of cruelty, meant to break me forever, instead gave me the greatest gift of my life, the chance to discover who Eleanor really was, and she turned out to be extraordinary. I smile, touching the bird charm on my bracelet, and return to my desk. There's work to do, women to help, art to celebrate, a life to live, my life. Finally, completely, beautifully mine, and I'm never giving it up again.